This video is focusing on disproving some very serious accusations that were made against me a few years ago. Let me start off by answering this question. Why did I not make a video disproving these accusations at the time? Truth is, I did plan on making a video response at the time. I even wrote my full response and had it recorded and everything.
There's a very good reason why I have never made videos on these platforms and why I've never spoken about these kinds of people. As you're going to be seeing later in this video, these are people who are incredibly toxic, and it is not above them to spread lies and disinformation to completely smear a person's reputation. Over the months, they gathered old Discord messages and either take them out of context or straight up fabricate information in an effort to smear my reputation by labeling me a pedophile.
But I never uploaded it. This is for two major reasons. One, most of the alternative Roblox community, the community which these people who made these accusations are a part of, knew that the individuals perpetuating these statements were overall untrustworthy and malicious people. Second, I didn't want to give these losers the exposure that they were desperately looking for by providing a full response on my main channel. I still don't want to do that, which is why I am deciding to upload this on my second channel. Also, if you take a look at my initial recordings I provided, they had terrible video and audio quality, which is why I won't be using that footage and instead recorded new footage. For those of you who have been in the alternative Roblox community, or ARC for short, for a while, you probably have seen one of several of my written responses explaining how the quote-unquote evidence behind these accusations have either been taken out of context or maliciously misinterpreted to make me look like I am a predator. However, since Polytoria has recently been blowing up as a platform, given the shoutouts by various Roblox content creators, I have been seeing these accusations being resurfaced to try and convince newcomers that I am some sort of predator. The sad part is there are people out there who are actually believing these claims and think that they are true. On top of all of this, I want to give a more comprehensive analysis that will be much more thorough in proving all of these claims false. When you search up my main channel, Game Webcam, on YouTube, a video from a channel called Millyrocker has been hogging the top of the search results, making this disinformation readily and easily accessible for anyone who has never heard of me before. This is the video that contains the defamatory claims that I am responding to. From the 2 minutes and 41 seconds this video runs, the quote-unquote evidence they have that I am a predator starts 10 seconds into the video and lasts for approximately 43 seconds. However, you could consider this length much shorter if you remove some of the memes that are interspersed between the evidence. The rest of this video is completely fabricated or irrelevant garbage that I will be commenting on later. But let's take a look at the evidence they have to back up their claim that I am a predator. Some of these screenshots are messages that I made in my initial response when I first saw that people were posting messages calling me a predator. I will admit that I was wrong to impulsively react this way, but given these people were saying straight to my face that I am a predator, I got upset that such a disgusting label was being applied to me. There are screenshots from 3 separate occasions that detail incidents where I supposedly did predatory behavior. 1. I responded to a hypothetical situation of a 15 and 20-year-old dating by saying that it is, quote, barely pedophilia, and that I dated someone with a 5-year age difference. 2. In a private DM conversation between me and Josie, I allegedly was planning on buying them a Bad Dragon adult toy as a gift. 3. Me allegedly confessing that I was trying to groom Josie to become a furry as a, quote, guilty pleasure. The remaining screenshots in this section are messages from Josie, mainly trying to add more credence to the third point. So let's start off with the first batch of messages. There are 2 statements in this batch that are causing a lot of grief. The first one has to do with me responding to a hypothetical in which a 20-year-old is dating a 15-year-old. I responded to the hypothetical by saying it is, quote, barely pedophilia. The main issue that people have with this is not the fact that I say that a 20-year-old dating a 15-year-old is pedophilia, but the fact that I used the word barely. First of all, let's talk about the words pedophilia and predatory. These are two words you often hear used interchangeably, but I'd argue that they do have distinctions. A relationship can be perfectly platonic and still be predatory, but pedophilia has more of a sexual connotation towards it. If I were to be answering this hypothetical now, I would say with 100% confidence that a 20-year-old dating a 15-year-old would be predatory. I should have phrased this a whole lot better, because it is this poor phrasing that has left this statement up for interpretation, including much more malicious interpretations that I never meant. So why did I even say this in the first place? Well, this can be answered by the other controversial statement that is in this batch. Similar to the previous statement, this is phrased poorly. In fact, the way I phrase this is ambiguous and can be interpreted in two different ways. Given the context of the hypothetical, a lot of people have been interpreting this to mean that I dated someone who is 5 years younger than me. Keep in mind that I was 18 when I posted this message, meaning that I would have dated a 13-year-old. In actuality, I dated someone who is 5 years older than me, meaning I dated somebody who was 23 at the time. I'm not going to get into the details of the relationship, mainly out of the respect of my ex's privacy, but the main takeaway from all of this is a relationship that was between two consenting adults. There was no minors and there was no grooming that ever happened. I was aware of the age difference and we consented. Now we are going to move on to the next batch of messages. So for those of you who don't know what Bad Dragon is, it is an adult website that specializes in making toys that are meant to resemble fantasy creatures or other non-human body parts. Unlike other adult toy sites, this brand targets a more specific audience, which is furries. The screenshot that is presented in this video has been completely stripped of its original context and has been reframed to push a narrative that I was planning on buying a Bad Dragon toy as a gift to someone named Josie. We will go over the entire conversation which these messages originate from and provide the real context behind it. But first, we need to answer a couple of background questions. Who is Josie? Well, Josie is my friends that I've had for around 10 years at this point. Back then when I was 15, I would stream Roblox live to anybody who wanted to watch me on a defunct YouTube channel that was named Metrano Ivernen. One of the viewers I had was Josie themselves. I had less than 500 subscribers when we first met, so basically I had little to no influence as a content creator. Josie was 12 at the time, so we were both minors when we met. When this conversation first took place, we were already friends for almost 4 years at this point, and I stopped streaming to the Metrano Ivernen channel and was winding down making videos on the channel at this point because I was in college at the time. I also was just simply getting burnt out and lost passion in making YouTube videos because I was just coming to terms that I was never going to do YouTube as a full-time career. And despite all of this, Josie and I still remained friends because we got along with each other really well and we enjoyed doing stuff together. Shortly after this video came out, Josie went out of his way to reach out to me and quickly explain to me how they managed to get the screenshots, along with multiple written explanations and a full video explaining how the screenshots are completely out of context or straight up fake. This should give us enough background context to start us off. So we're going to start walking through the entire conversation and I will pause to give the appropriate context when it is needed.
Opsy hello. So, someone joked about giving me $50.
Hello, on my way to the campus.
But, Leaker, I think they may be dead ass. And I'm like, ass dags. Chupa is buying me AirPods.
Bruh.
I think the give me shit jokes are working. You're next, Bad Dragon Dildo. Let's go.
Alright, let's unpack these last few messages right here. So first, let's go over the immediate takeaways. Josie explicitly mentions that what he is saying here is a complete joke. Josie is the one who brought up Bad Dragon first, not me. Josie already knew what Bad Dragon was. Now, what does Josie mean by give me shit jokes? Well, this is an inside joke that Josie and I had back in the early years of our friendship. If you didn't know, Josie grew up poor. His family was barely making enough to get by, and he simply just did not have the amount of money needed to live a normal childhood. Early on in our friendship, Josie would oftentimes ask me to buy small things like a Roblox Builders Club membership or something like a t-shirt, because they just simply did not have the money to afford those things. However, because I was frugal with my money at the time and I didn't want to establish a power imbalance on a financial level, I would say no to him 99% of the time. The only times that I would even get him something were to be on special occasions, such as Christmas or his birthday, usually normal times when you would get your friends presents. Eventually, Josie realized that continuing to beg me for things was never going to work, so he ended up turning this whole begging situation into a complete inside joke. And how did he do this, you may ask? Well, he would often do this by finding absolutely ridiculous things to ask me to buy him, knowing that I would say no. Like, for example, he would go on wish.com, try and find the most absolutely absurd thing on the website. It would simply just ask me if I could buy it for him, knowing I would say no. If I asked him for a simple favor or I wanted him to do something silly, usually he will say something like, yeah, sure, if you give me $10. And he did this knowing I would never give him that money. And this is a joke that went on for a bit, but when things did start to look better for him when he got older, this was a joke that did eventually stop. And you're probably thinking, well, if he was constantly asking you to buy things, that kind of resembles a sort of power dynamic, doesn't it? Well, given Josie's living situation, he had several different coping mechanisms that he used to help get through the pain. The most common of which was humor. Knowing Josie for 10 years at this point, one thing that has absolutely never failed with him was his sense of humor. In fact, the conversation we're going over is not the first time that Josie decides to use Bad Dragon jokingly. Here is a snippet of an earlier conversation back then when I was 18, where Josie and I were in a Discord call and we were purposefully teasing each other with stupid bits and jokes. In that Discord call, Josie lies to me saying that he bought a Bad Dragon toy from the website, and he later admits in text that this was indeed a lie. This is the earliest occurrence of Bad Dragon in our entire DM history, and as you can see, Josie is the one who mentions it first. He learned about Bad Dragon on his own accord and purposefully mentioned it to try and get me to laugh, because I, as an adult furry, would know about that company. This snippet should also give you some further insight on our sense of humor back then. In fact, here is a screenshot of him trying to remake the logo in Forza Horizon because he thought that it was funny. And yeah, I found it quite funny as well. I would understand criticism that perhaps we were both irresponsible on how we conducted ourselves in these conversations, but to assume that I was trying to go out of my way to groom Josie or be a predator is an incredibly bad faith accusation that I'd guess would only be done out of concern trolling. We would both make stupid and edgy jokes to each other because that was part of how we'd spend time together. Keep this context in mind because it explains the next few messages in this conversation.
It's all a scheme. LeMayo.
For real this time.
You really want me to? I'll do it, motherfucker, on your 18th birthday.
Like we can fucking go.
Oh, just the lanyard? Cool.
Alright, so keep in mind that I would say no every time whenever he'd ask me to buy him something. Well, when I saw that he was mentioning these jokes earlier, I knew that he was going to be throwing the joke at me again, so I gave a non-serious answer. But let me make something clear. I never bought Josie anything from this website, and you don't have to take my word for it. Let's call back to Josie's written statements I've mentioned earlier. In these statements, Josie confirms that I never bought him anything from this website. And even though I am joking in this conversation, I told him that he'd only get one once he turned 18. Because even my 19-year-old self knew that buying an adult toy for a minor would not only be wrong, but illegal. The lanyard in question was just a simple lanyard that contained the Bad Dragon logo. And I mainly did this as a callback to when Josie would spread the Bad Dragon logo on Forza Horizon, which I found funny. I would never do this to any random individual, especially a minor. Not back then, not now, not ever.
Or any other merch they have. I don't care, dude. I am officially a charity case, mainly 'cause we on welfare.
Love doing charity work. I'll buy it online and just put in your address so it goes to you. No intermediate.
Oh, bet. I've been doing that via Amazon wishlist to hide my address. Let me fucking see if Bad Dragon is on Amazon.
Maybe the lanyard, but not their toys. I swear to God I finna buy a toy and try to hide it.
LMAO.
Don't think I won't. I got needs.
So now we are finally starting to run into the messages that are being shown in the video. So just a couple more things to clarify so you don't get confused. When I said I'll buy it online, once again, I am referring to the lanyard, not an actual toy. The last message here is referring to me buying a toy for myself, not a gift for Josie. Remember, this is not a serious conversation, so I was never actually planning on getting myself a sex toy. I was living with my parents at the time, so there was no way I was actually going to be able to own one and get away with it. For the next few messages, Josie decided to speak in Morse code for some weird reason, so I played along by putting stuff into a Morse code translator. Here are the messages translated for you, just in case if you wanted to know what they were. I'm gonna be honest, I have absolutely no clue why Josie decided to speak Morse code here. When I asked him why he chose to do this, he said he doesn't remember doing this, and even he has no idea why he did this. The only thing I have to work off of here is these couple of messages, which is Josie admitting once again that what he is saying here is a complete joke. And here are the remaining messages of the conversation, where Josie gives me some links to an Amazon listing and the wish list tied to their account. The first link is a listing for some rainbow-colored women's gloves. For context, Josie identifies as non-binary. Once again, this is a joke and not a serious offer. The second link was a broken link for the wish list, which was the third link. Similar to the lanyard, I never bought the item linked or anything from his wish list. And that is it. That is the entire conversation. So, just to recap, Josie and I have been friends for almost 4 years when this conversation took place. This was not a serious conversation and is based around inside jokes between me and Josie. Josie had prior knowledge of Bad Dragon and brought it up first. Even jokingly, I explicitly stated I would never buy him an actual toy from Bad Dragon and was referring to a lanyard with the company's mascot on it. I never bought anything from Bad Dragon or from his Amazon wish list. And yet, these messages are being used as evidence to push a narrative that I am a groomer or predator. Before we move on to the next screenshot, we need to answer a very important question. How did these screenshots become public in the first place? Well, for the first batch, it was pretty simple. They sifted through my message history. Well, for this second and third batch, these were private messages. So how were they obtained in the first place? Well, there was a group of strangers that contacted Josie and asked them for these screenshots. But this doesn't make sense. Why would my best friend of almost 10 years want to go behind my back to give such incriminating screenshots to such a random group of strangers? Well, the group of people asking for these screenshots are not strangers. These people come from Brick Hill, a website that is now dead after it turned out that the site's owner, Space Builder, real name Alexander Dunn, had been arrested for flying overseas to meet up with a 16-year-old he met online and allegedly committing statutory rape. This isn't going to be the last time I'll bring up Brick Hill and Alex Dunn, because it'll be essential to understanding who Millyrocker is. Alex Dunn's arrest is important here because I made a few videos going over Alex Dunn's arrest and how poorly the Brick Hill staff handled the website around the time this situation took place. I mean, we have such glorious examples such as reopening the website while he was still in trial, or that they said that ownership was being transferred, despite there being legal proof that this was not the case at all. While most people had the normal reaction of being absolutely horrified and disgusted, there were a few users in particular who were incredibly upset and thought that I was the one who killed Brick Hill. And this is very important to mention because these were people who saw Brick Hill as their virtual sanctuary and their escape from reality. And this is still the case long after his arrest. In 2025, the official Brick Hill channel uploaded a video that is essentially a montage of screenshots. Taking a quick look at the comments section, despite Alex's actions being well known at this point, there are still plenty of people who would want the Brick Hill website to come back. When you take this sort of stuff in mind, their motives for calling me a predator start to become a lot more clear. If we take a look at Josie's written statements, the reason why Josie leaked these DMs is because these people threatened him. These people threatened to dox Josie's address and family if they didn't get screenshots they wanted to use to suggest that I am some sort of predator. In other words, Josie did not give these screenshots out willingly. And the only reason why I managed to have screenshots detailing these threats is because these idiots were so stupid as to raid my Discord server and publicly make these threats. Here's the thing, there weren't originally just written statements from Josie. Josie also went out of his way to upload a video on their channel to go on record saying that the messages were taken out of context and that I am innocent. However, I noticed that this video has since been deleted from YouTube. For the first time in months, I contacted Josie and asked him why he deleted his video clearing my name. He told me that it is because these same people who extorted him for those screenshots went out of their way to threaten him into deleting the video. This should give you insight into how incredibly malicious these individuals are. They know exactly what they are doing. They are not out here to seek justice. This is their sick plot to get revenge. And Millyrocker is somebody who is a part of this group. While editing this video, I have managed to stumble across a video that Josie recorded himself with the intent that I would be using it in a video like this, giving a proper video testimony disproving the screenshots that were extorted out of him. That being said, Josie told me he might also record another response for his channel. Anyways, here's the video.
Okay, I think it should be going. What's up? Fresh out of the therapy session, MacBook Air quality Josie here. I just wanted to pop in and say that these motherfuckers took advantage of a bad mental state in a time where me and Morks were fighting to basically extort information out of me. I'll make this quick though. I never asked Morks to pay me. I edit for the love of the game, baby. And I wasn't fucking groomed. That screenshot was cropped and taken way out of context. Anyway, yeah, the whole situation's fucked. If you're the person who's watching this, choke on a dick and die. And yeah, I'm gonna go not buy a bad dragon dildo. I'm not gonna buy a bad dragon dildo now that I've been accused of owning a bad dragon dildo. Okay, goodbye.
This is the last screenshot that Millyrocker provides to suggest that I am some sort of groomer or predator. Now, unlike the previous batches of screenshots, which took place several years ago, this screenshot is much more recent. Like the bad dragon conversation, this message has also been completely stripped of its original context and being reframed as a confession that I was trying to groom Josie into being a furry for my own guilty pleasure. This message was one of many messages I exchanged with Josie when Josie and I were having a fight. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this feud, as this should have stayed private, and it is unfortunate that this message got out to the public. To simply put it, as Josie and I were growing older, we were starting to drift apart into different people. Many of the common interests that we simply had before were no longer there. We were not into the same sorts of games anymore. We had different tastes in music. We started having more conflicting opinions. And also because now both of us are working jobs, we simply just have less time to talk to each other and have fun. This simply just started taking a mental toll on both of us. So I would often try to go out of my way to find interests that I personally liked and see if he was interested in that sort of stuff, so that way we had some common interests. And one of those interests just so happened to turn out being a furry. I was hoping that I would never have to speak publicly about this, because this is a phase of my life that I am not particularly proud of. But not long after I turned 18 years old, I decided that I just wanted to become a furry, because I took a look at the artwork and many of the people who were in this community and saw that they had the same interests that I had. And it was only a couple of months later, after getting to know plenty of furries, that I decided to get more involved in the adult side of the community. And this sort of thing went on for a little over a year. And when I look back on reading plenty of the conversations that I had during the time, I feel nothing but disgust and complete regret. But this was entirely my fault. I chose to participate in this side of the community with such a terrible mindset, and I just simply feel so much shame for it. That's why when I was beginning to enter my 20s, I realized that continuing to participate in this side of the community was mentally weighing me down. And that's why I just simply stopped participating in the community altogether. So the first part of this message is completely true. I have been taking the steps ever since I've left to try and have a healthier approach to the community. Now, let's talk about the second part of the message, where key information is being omitted to make out that I am a groomer. First and foremost, Josie at this point was no longer a minor. Second, despite our feud, our friendship had been a lot more established at this point, knowing each other for about 7 to 8 years now. Third, this quote convincing that I did only started taking place in late 2022 to early 2023. And the most important piece of information being omitted is that Josie would often bait and intentionally provoke me into asking him to be a furry. Once again, Josie admits in a written statement that the reason why I did this is because he originally was doing this as a joke, and that these jokes just simply went too far to the point where I thought he was being serious. This entire ordeal happened because of one big misunderstanding. And this is all the evidence that Millyrocker has to suggest that I am a predator. So, he screenshotted old messages or extorted my friend for private DMs and blatantly took them out of context or even reframed them to make me seem malicious. As for the rest of the video, there's nothing much to comment on. A lot of the photos that are shown in this video come from my old Instagram account that I had when I was a teenager. And shortly after this video was released, I did go out of my way to private this Instagram account. Also, it was one thing to spread fake claims that I am a predator, but it is another thing to attach a photo of my mom in this and try to tie my family to these disgusting claims. That is why I wanted to take down the video, if anything. The only person I want to apologize to is my mom for being dragged into this mess, and she should have never been involved. Also, on top of these screenshots, these people go out of their way to use generative AI to force me to say things that I have never said. Fortunately, the AI is pretty easy to identify, but in the couple of years since this video has been uploaded, AI has only become more convincing. It is honestly terrifying as a content creator when someone abuses this technology to try and incriminate you for something you never did. If this was meant to be a video to expose me, this has got to be one of the worst exposed videos I think I've ever seen on YouTube. This is a video that spits in the face of real SA and grooming victims with baseless claims that both Josie and I can prove together were maliciously taken out of context. Alright, so let's answer the million-dollar question. Who is Millyrocker? Before I continue on with this section, I want to give a disclaimer that despite what has happened, please do not go out of your way to harass this person or any of the other people involved in spreading these accusations. As I briefly mentioned at the beginning of this video and what I'm about to go over shortly, going out of your way to interact with these people is only going to give them the attention they are desperately looking for. Anyways, remember earlier when I told you guys to remember that brief history with Brick Hill? Well, it's time to dive a bit more into the Brick Hill lore, so that way you guys can understand how much of a loser this guy is. Alex Dunn was not the only founder of Brick Hill. He founded the website with his brother Luke Dunn, alias Brick Luke. Unfortunately, Luke Dunn passed away in late 2017. How did these profoundly toxic people react? They completely mocked him for it. If you're wondering what the acronym BLDN stands for, it stands for this. By using this acronym, you are essentially pissing on and laughing at a dead man's corpse. If you've used this acronym or made fun of Luke's death in any way, you were called a Luke poster. Luke posters were banned and outcasted from the Brick Hill community for this very reason. In the time that I was making Brick Hill content on my main channel, I purposefully avoided using this acronym and did not bring any attention to the acronym, knowing the context it carries. When I leaked Alex's private response, I went out of my way to redact Luke's cause of death just so I didn't give these people the fuel they desperately wanted. So, if you didn't get it by now, Millyrocker is a troll. The main purpose of this channel is to say extremely offensive things to offend and upset people for his own entertainment. Whether it's to harass you, defame you, or even do something like dox you, this is a person who is willing to go as low as they possibly can to get the reaction they want. The video he made on me was never about exposing me for being a predator. The video was meant to get a rise out of me for the fact that people would be gullible enough to believe the quote evidence he included in his video. I don't blame anybody who watched this video and came out of it thinking the claims were true. The main reason for these screenshots is to prove that this video does have an impact on the people who watched it, and proof that these claims affect my reputation as a content creator. I still see people assume that I'm some sort of predator and that I have to keep explaining how this is just simply not true. A couple of years after posting his video on me, Millyrocker chose to upload this video to his channel. I googled who Richard Newkirk is, and it turns out that this guy got arrested and sentenced in 2011 for drugging and killing a minor. And here's his video description, and I'll just let you read this for yourself.
33-year-old Richard Newkirk was sentenced this morning during an emotional hearing.
My heart breaks every day, over and over again.
Margot Parson told the court the loss of her 14-year-old son Bryce has crushed the family. Her 3 surviving sons and their father wept as she spoke, sometimes directly to his killer, Richard Newkirk.
Without Bryce, we seem to be in fragments. There is a big, horrible hole, a missing piece.
My baby boy would have not known what that drug was. My baby, he wouldn't have been introduced to that drug had it not been for that man right there.
I am so sorry, not because I am to be punished, but because of what happened and that Bryce was taken from this world.
This is not funny. This is cruel. Even if he were to go out of his way to make a response to this video with more dubious evidence or even fake it using AI, hopefully you will quickly realize Millyrocker is not somebody who is worth your time or energy. To end off this video, I'm going to explain how these claims started. In case you didn't know, these people have been spreading the claims that I have been a predator before Millyrocker's video existed. And I think I have a pretty good idea on how these claims started. So, not long after I made the video on my channel exposing Alex Dunn, I went into the Discord server for another platform called Brick Planet. At this point in time, Brick Planet temporarily made some weird decision where they were going to try and pivot their website to be an avatar chatting website. Of course, Brick Planet completely reverted that decision after the entire player base rallied against them for how incredibly stupid that decision was. During this period of time, I did some light trolling on the server because I also thought that was an incredibly stupid decision. There were a couple of people on the server, though, who took my trolling very personally, and they decided to add me into a group chat trying to get me to do a, quote, debate with them regarding Alex Dunn. I have full scroll captured screenshots of this group chat. If you want to read the messages that they said to me in this group, feel free to continuously pause the video and enjoy reading the messages for yourself. One thing you'll start picking up is that they were never planning on having a debate with me regarding Alex. They were doing this with the sole intent to harass me. One thing you should notice from reading this scroll capture is the multiple instances where I am being called a predator. And this took place a few months before Millyrocker and his group raided my server and uploaded his video. This is where I believe these false accusations really got their initial start in the malicious side of the ARC. At the same time, taking a look at the other messages in this group chat should show you that in the same breath of calling me a predator, they were defending Alex Dunn, an actual convicted pedophile who flew across the Atlantic Ocean to meet up with a 16-year-old. But you may be surprised to know that this is actually not the oldest message out there of somebody insinuating that I was a predator. After Brick Hill started to die off as a website, someone managed to log all of the messages inside the staff Discord server and archived them. I'm not going to disclose who has it, knowing how incredibly serious this is. Originally, they were just showing me these logs as we were having fun, pointing and laughing at how degenerate the Brick Hill staff were. But when I told them to look up my channel name, I saw these messages. Personally, I think these are some of the most damning messages I have seen from the Brick Hill staff. Not only did Brick Hill staff not care about the victim from Alex Dunn's arrest, but they were hoping that I would be outed as a pedophile instead of Alex. I wish I was kidding. Fuck the Brick Hill staff. Child safety online has been an issue for almost as long as the internet has existed, but it's especially become a problem in the past few years with platforms like Roblox not taking the issue as seriously as they should. I mean, this is a platform where the community has been warning them for several years at this point that there have been huge issues on their platform, including issues regarding child safety. I forgot to mention that we're also living during the political time of Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files, which has easily become one of, if not the biggest presidential scandals in US history, where many ultra-rich elites have been involved in a child sex trafficking ring, including President Donald Trump. I think human moderation is a critical component for maintaining a safe community, especially to try and stop horrible incidents like these from continuing to happen. I truly do want to see predators, groomers, and pedophiles actually be held accountable for their actions. However, I think it is very important to especially be focusing that energy on real criminals and not blindly trusting someone and hurting innocent people in the process. And one last thing, I never killed Brick Hill. The people who were responsible for killing that website was Alex Dunn and the staff who never took his victims seriously and tried to sweep it all under the rug. Alex was the one who bought that plane ticket and flew overseas to meet up with a 16-year-old he met online. The staff were the ones who chose to disregard Alex's victim and reopen the website while he was still in trial. The staff chose to constantly lie to their users that Brick Hill was gonna have a new owner, despite there being legal evidence that this was not the case. The people who made these frivolous claims against me never once cared about child safety. They used these claims to try and get back at me for the fact that I increased public awareness about a real convicted pedophile. The people who are willing to call me a predator or a groomer are the type of people who are willing to shoot the messenger if it means that they could have the slightest chance of having their platform back.